This video is going to be a film study look at Maxx Crosby, but also a little bit of commentary about how the Baltimore Ravens front office undercut the rest of the NFL for the premier talent that was out there, definitely before the free agency period, but possibly also including by overbidding or outbidding a couple of other NFL teams for Crosby's services. Remarkably similar, if you ask me, to the acquisition of Derrick Henry 2 off seasons ago. The only difference, of course, is Henry signed with the Ravens under market value. I think that's obvious at this point. The Ravens rewarded him after one season for his services and for his talent and his contribution. In this case, they get a guy, Maxx Crosby, who I believe when he signed his most recent deal with the Raiders, it was the highest rated deal for a non-quarterback in the NFL. Now it's been outpaced multiple times over. The Ravens have got him in the building for only $30 million a year. Of course, there's a possibility of the cap hit being significantly lower for 2026 than that $30 or $32 million a year number, but also the ability for the Ravens to possibly renegotiate completely. Going to get the film started here. I'm going to show you, I think, 12 plays, just how devastating and I think impressive this acquisition should be for us as Ravens fans. I think why this is going to be such a delight for us as Ravens fans is our defense was so horrible in 2025. It made no improvements at all over 2024, and we have an absolute game wrecker here, someone who's got incredible range. And what I mean by that is not just length or wingspan, but range of impact on the field. I like to talk about sometimes almost like a Venn diagram of putting players on opposite sides from each other who have great range. And of course, the natural inclination would be we'd like to put Maxx Crosby on one side of the field and Kyle Hamilton on the other. I almost wonder about putting those guys next to each other and having like overlapping fields such that you can just shut down one whole section of the field or one whole side for the offense. This is a great play against the Bears this past year, 2025. I know he missed the last two games of the season, with a knee injury, but still recorded 10 sacks. The team went 3-14 overall. Nothing was done well there in Las Vegas at all under Pete Carroll, at least this season. I generally will spot shadow Crosby in yellow before each snap, mostly going to focus on the end zone angle. He changes the math, whereby 5-on-4 for the offense is really 5-on-5. And I think that this is a tremendous opportunity for us to talk about Nnamdi Madubuike's availability. If he's available and we get 80% of what we would like to see from Madubuike, then Mike Green we're going to find out how good Mike Green is or how good he is not. Because what I mean by that is this dynamic isn't going to occur that often. And you'll see throughout this film study video that I show you how often there's a chip assigned to Crosby, or at least someone on the outside, a tight end, running back, or both sometimes, that could potentially help out. He's got extreme range, not just his own arm length and wingspan, but ability to cover the field. We normally talk about range with like a safety or maybe an inside linebacker. I think that the quality of player that Eric DeCosta just acquired, granted it's 2 first-round picks, so there's a large price tag associated with it. He kind of supersedes positions because he's got great range and the awareness. The awareness is extremely impressive and noticeable on film. I'm going to try to relay some of that to you. The only thing that I might not like so far is the ball security that we just saw, or the lack thereof. Same game against the Bears, and again, the recognition. There's all the traits that are there. If this was a draftable player, this is a number 1 draft pick in this draft. And that's where I don't mind giving away pick 14, even though you're looking at, a tremendous talent, falling or being available for the Ravens. Of course, we got other issues with the offensive line. The individual acquisition here is off the charts. Athleticism, burst, get off, length, range, all of those are as good as it gets. What has surprised me somewhat is the recognition, his ability to see things before the snap. This is a wide receiver in the backfield. It's DJ Moore, who's, of course, since been traded to the Buffalo Bills. And it's almost an inside counter, some people call it wingback reverse, to the rookie wide receiver, who was a rookie this past year for Chicago, Luther Burden. And Maxx Crosby treats like tight ends, sometimes tackles as well. He treats a lot of those smaller framed blockers as virtual speed bumps, and you get an idea of it here. But what I'm really focusing on is the awareness, the recognition pre-snap. You see examples of this. It reminds me of an inside linebacker, except this is a D end with incredible length, arm length, height, ability to see over things. And I think that kind of plays into his ability to recognize or see things pre-snap. And what I mean is stuff like this where he's standing up, and in this case, he finishes in a 2-point stance. I'm talking about pre-snap. But oftentimes, he'll be standing up like this, looking across. Sometimes he's looking, sometimes I believe, I should say, he's looking in here at one of the guards or the guard, center guard. He's probably got some film study that tells him things pre-snap. I believe there's times where he's looking at the quarterback and listening to what he's saying, but also possibly looking at his steps. I haven't even talked about the instant usage of his hands. You see a little bit of an example of it here. The ability to just swat with the outside, swim over with the inside arm. Yes, it's on a tight end, but you see this against offensive tackles as well, and I'll give you some examples in this video. As a fun football player to watch, I have watched a little bit of Raiders film in this offseason. I was looking to do a video on Ashton Jeanty, and then when Clint Kubiak gets named the offensive coordinator, I was like, okay, check. I'll definitely do one of those videos because I think it's a perfect fit there. I hadn't watched a ton of the defense, but as Ravens fans, we knew clearly how talented Maxx Crosby was because he totally destroyed our game plan in week 2 of 2024. I'm going to use a combat sports analogy here for a moment. Actually, 2 of them, which is, he's got these instant reactions with his hands. His hand strikes, swipes, rips, clubs, whatever you want to call them, and they definitely remind me of a professional boxer, a high-level professional boxer. It almost looks fake at times. It almost reminds me of like WWE, meaning it looks pre-planned. It's so quick and so abrupt the way that he wins with some of his hand strikes that it makes me wonder if, the offensive tackle or the tight end isn't, quote, in on it and letting him win. That's how impressive it is. A little bit of film here from our home loss in 2024. These plays are memorable for us. I won't show the stunt late in the game that really ruins the Ravens' opportunity, I think, to win the game. Again, spot shadowed here as the left side DN. When an offense does this, releases the running back, in this case Justice Hill, and the tight end immediately, the math no longer is in the offensive line's favor. Against what I intend to do is take a look at him against some of the best tackles in the game. I do have the 2023 film of him against Penei Sewell and the Lions. I think it was week 8 or week 9. Of course, Detroit won that game. That was the season they made it to the NFC Championship game. Maxx Crosby had 8 tackles, I think 12 different pass set opportunities. I've got him against Penei Sewell. I'm not going to include that one in this video for multiple reasons. This is mostly commentary, even though I'm showing the film. This is an athletic mismatch. It's Pat McCarry, who since moved on, clearly, not able to stand up to a player the caliber of Maxx Crosby. He's a game wrecker. Blocking schemes have to be adjusted for him. I mentioned it earlier in the video. I think we're going to find out how good Mike Green is because how often he's going to get Mike Green is going to get those single block opportunities on the other side. Again, he notices things. There's going to be 2 run plays in a row against us, one from the second possession and then one from the third. He notices things pre-snap. Sometimes he communicates it to the defensive tackle to the inside. This is a really terrible rep by our left guard. I mean, our guard play was terrible in 2024. People disagree with me. They have disagreed for a while, but it didn't suddenly become bad in 2025. It was bad in 2024 as well. This is an example. We're just not even getting to Crosby, but that's how quick. That's his burst and how violent he is upon finish, running directly at Derek. I remember this play. I'm sure you probably do as well. He's a tone setter from the first possession, or in this case, it's the second possession. But the amazing thing is, along with the physical gifts that I talked about, awareness, recognition, etc., range of pursuit, he's got incredible cardio. Plays. The snap count is insane. I went and looked at the snap count from previous seasons. 94%. Individual games, 94%, 92%, 97%. There's a whole bunch of 100%. There's a ton of games where Maxx Crosby played every single snap. I hope he doesn't. For us, I hope that we can utilize everybody. But go back and look for yourself. To be honest with you, go find the stats on your own just to confirm. You're going to see this dynamic once or twice a game on the film that I have, at least. And this is from the third possession. Again, it's a run concept. They've come out, held us to a field goal, and then forced a punt. The end zone angle will make this stuff clear. You'll see communication. And in this case, I think he's communicating to Nate Hobbs, who's since moved on to a different team. But then it often is followed by these stunts to the inside. They're actually stunting both DNs to the inside. So it is possible as well in some of these situations where this is pre-planned or called for him to do so, and he's just lining up late. Basically, the idea is, let me stand out here outside of the blocking scheme, let all these guys figure out their blocking scheme, their path, if you will, post-snap, and then I'll move late to show my intentions as late as possible. In this case, I don't think so. I think he identifies something, to be honest with you. Maybe it was stance, maybe it was, the way the quarterback is giving the cadence, or his feet. Sometimes it's quarterback's foot setup. That's a real indicator that exists at a number of levels. I will say this, something that's an interesting dynamic to me. Christian Wilkins is out there on the free agent market, I think, still. I have no idea what the status of his foot is or his ankle, but Maxx Crosby has a connection to him. There's an interesting dynamic or talking point there, if you ask me. Moving on to some other film from this past year, 2025. You see this dynamic consistently. Tight end lined up next to the offensive tackle where Maxx Crosby is. And I think he's looking in here at the quarterback directly. He may be, in fact, looking at the width of this running back versus the width of, I think that's Deebo Samuel there. Backup quarterback Marcus Mariota is in. He's not a part of the disrupting the play here, to be honest with you. I'm just showing this one to give you an idea. I mean, I've got 6 or 7 of these where he's just getting chipped initially, and that delays the tight end's release. And so whose job does that make easier? The will linebacker. The will linebacker is generally lined up into the boundary. Trenton Simpson, Teddy Buchanan played some will linebacker last year into the boundary. So it makes those guys' job easier, changes the math for the first 1.5 to 2 seconds after the snap. These guys aren't as threatened or as pressed, if you will, by the tight end's route. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. It doesn't actually end up being a penalty here on the offensive lineman against Maxx Crosby. I think the penalty is occurring right here. One thing I have noticed, and I couldn't find the data to confirm all of this, is that Maxx Crosby draws a ton of holding calls. Again, this was not one of them. It was on the defensive tackle that I kind of spot shadowed there a moment ago, right there. But if anyone has access to that data or knows where to find it, feel free to let me know in the comment section. You see a ton of penalties called on guys that are attempting to block Maxx Crosby. Who's going to benefit the most from this? Well, besides the whole team, I think it's Jesse Minter, because he's going to, be able to predict the pass pro and how the offense is going to deal with Maxx Crosby because he's so talented. Top 3 edge defender, top 5 edge defender in the league. I mean, I don't really care. You've got guys in the room, guys in the building. Jesse Minter, Weaver, and then when you put the talent out there, Crosby, hopefully Matabike is completely healthy or close to it. I think Minter's the guy who's going to benefit the most because his calls, his stunts, or his blitzes, this makes them more successful because of the attention that Maxx Crosby is going to draw. Something else to mention, or for me to at least try to describe to you, is that Maxx Crosby has great usage of his hands all over the film, but he does so on his way to the quarterback. It's like he's on his tracks, if you will. And if you're on his tracks, if you're there, in this case, it's going to be a tight end, once again, chipping, and then the right tackle, a little bit more of a flat set. I think it's Latham, was a rookie this past year. But the hand strikes occur while he's on his tracks. There is no hesitation, I guess that's the word to use here. He's very decisive and abrupt and almost, I'd say, reactionary with his hands. You can kind of tell that he does either, mixed martial arts or boxing training significantly, because everything happens super quick with his hands, even for the NFL level. I mean, instantly is an upgrade for the Ravens, obviously, from 2025, even 2024, when we had guys like Van Noy and Matabike contribute a lot. But from a talent standpoint, the most talented guy we've had as a pass rusher for a really, really long time. Same game against Tennessee, week 6 of 2025. I think he had 2 sacks in this game. It might have been 2.5. There's a really weird play in here. This is late second quarter, so he knows that it's passed, but you see this dynamic a lot where he's standing up and then gets into his stance late because he's looking at something. You know, he could be looking at the guard if they're playing at home, who's getting ready to signal to the center that he can snap the football, but I think it's more than that. I don't think it's that simple. In this case, you've got a mistake by Tennessee. The running back is working to the other side, defensive end, and then the tight end, I believe that's a tight end. I think it's Okonkwo, who's a Maryland guy who's actually a free agent, who's releasing to the outside. So again, it's a 5-on-4, maybe 6-on-4 if you include the running back, but I think the math is really going to be in our favor, and the math is in the Raiders' favor here. It's a 4-man rush scheme. You can see why other teams, the Seahawks included, were in the running, or at least discussion, I should say, for trying to pick up Maxx Crosby. This double hand swipe, instantly moving or attempting to, move or knock the tackle off balance, make him lose his posture. He's able to get around the edge. It's a weird play that I believe is initially ruled a sack, forced fumble even for someone, and then eventually I think it's overturned and called an incomplete pass. I'm not exactly sure. The point is that you've got a guy who's got the potential on every single snap to disrupt or change the game, if you will, and we got him for a below current market value. Will his contract be renegotiated or a totally new contract? It's obviously possible. You know, maybe he tries to help us out, the Ravens, by lowering his cap number for 2026. I've seen the information from, I think it's Spot Rec or Brian McFarland that the cap hit could theoretically get down to $7.7 million for 2026. That would be amazing to think about. You know, we would be getting him for less than the Chargers just paid Khalil Mack for 1 year's, I think, $18 million. But as far as the market value piece, the talent level that Eric DeCosta just brought in, it really reminds me again of Derrick Henry. The free agent acquisition of him before the 2024 season, well below market value. The rest of the NFL really missed that one. Here with Maxx Crosby, obviously there were other people negotiating, and that's why the price got driven up. Same game against the Titans. I think we're into the fourth quarter. He's a closer. He's a guy who can finish the game, and we haven't had that a ton. Even going back a couple of decades, there were so many late game passing situations where we just couldn't get off the field or we couldn't get the quarterback down. I will say this. He's very good in a 2-point stance. I feel like in a 2-point stance with his hand off the ground, he's still exceptional against the run. Pass rush, I like him better in a 3-point stance. I think he's great there, playing at a downhill angle. He prefers, it appears to me, to stand up for a while, and then as he recognizes that the ball is going to be snapped, then get in his stance. There's a lot going on there. You know, maybe he feels like he's conserving energy. Maybe that's why he's able to play 100% of the snaps with such great energy. He's got all the moves, if you ask me, and he's very intelligent about when he uses them. And in this game, I didn't see this progression of moves until this play. So kind of shooting one hand up, the right hand here, to get the tackle's attention and get him to retract. I'm talking about 55's arms and elbows going back now because of reacting to this. And then Crosby knows the timing of what's going to happen. The hands are immediately going to come back out by the tackle, and he knows he can run his move. He's almost kind of eliciting that retraction by the tackle by showing him a fake move, the right hand coming out quickly, too quick, if you will, and then he knows that that's going to be followed up by an extension of the arms, and he can chop or rip or swat down whatever move he wants to do. Very intelligent football player. I loved watching the pass rush matchup between him and Penei Sewell in 2023. I have watched that game. I didn't include it here. I want to focus part 2, maybe a Monday or Tuesday video on his pass rush opportunities against Penei Sewell in that game, as well as his matchups against Jawan Taylor and the Chiefs in the last couple of years. along with the cardio, the effort that he gives throughout the entirety of a 60-minute football game, there does appear to me to be this element or dynamic where early in the game, offensive tackles who've never faced him, they really are put on the back foot. His moves almost are happening too fast for those guys. He draws a hold here on this play. Josh Connerly, rookie right tackle from Oregon, that we were all looking at possibly for the Ravens. It's a run play away from him. Again, you see this instance of him standing up, looking, observing, and then getting into his three-point stance. I love when he's playing or standing at this angle here, this kind of canted angle to be able to attack there. This happens a ton on film, whereby he's attacking, knows something. In this case, not only does he know that it's run, I think he knows that it's run away from him. It could be the setup of the tight ends for years in the Greg Roman offense. In the diamond formation, you had the dynamic of how wide the tight ends were from the quarterback, from the midline, and that kind of gave you some directional tells. I'm not sure what it is, but not only does Maxx Crosby know at times whether it's run or pass, I believe that he has a pretty good idea of the direction as well. Again, I couldn't find any data, I should say, for the penalties drawn by defensive linemen or any defensive player in the NFL for 2025 or before that. So if you could find that, that'd be great. Put it up in the comment section. But I will say this, you see it a lot on film. Same game against Washington. It's week 3 this year. The Commanders won despite Mariota being the quarterback who was on the field. Screen play, it's going to be to our right-hand side. So the running back is going to release to the outside of Crosby, and Crosby's going to rush the passer against Connerly. So he's got great pursuit, number one. He's incapable of not running to the football. I won't say he wants to do so. He's just incapable of not doing it. And here you can see, after being entangled with Connerly for a moment, maybe being held, he ends up with 4 points of contact, or maybe it's only 3 on the ground right here, and it's just violent. When he gets to the football, he brings some attitude to it, and I love it. I think the Ravens need some of this. They need some of this kind of finish, this kind of reckless abandon, if you will. Maybe draw some penalties playing football like this, especially in 2025-26, with how soft the game is officiated in the NFL and in college to an extent. But I think the Ravens need more violence like this, especially on the defensive side. 2 more plays here. Now, these are known run situations, so I'm not going to apply or attempt to convince you that Maxx Crosby's showing a tremendously high level of awareness. He's stunting or pinching to the inside. It's a fourth quarter. Washington's up, I believe it's 34-18. It's a double-digit lead at this point. When he's pinching or stunting to the inside, he's a problem to deal with. So what I'm talking about is his alignment right now, almost a 4, but really, a 4-eye. But when he's slamming the gap down, and oftentimes he's communicated to the defensive tackle that he's going to do so the defensive tackle needs to pinch to the inside as well. I think that you get some element of that here. And I'll give you the all-22 angle maybe here in a moment so you can see what I'm talking about. He kind of turns his helmet and says something to the defensive tackle. He does appear to give intel to his defensive lineman, very similar to what inside linebackers often do. That's why I made that comparison earlier. But in any case, stunting to the inside, and the idea is that allows the inside linebacker, well, if it's run away from you and you're stunting to the inside, simplistically, then great, you're running in that direction already. But if it ends up being run to you, then we always felt like, or we were always told, by older and more experienced coaches was, then we just get a natural gap exchange with the second level defender. And he can, roll over the top. He can fit over the top. And that's what 52 does here. I think it's Landon Roberts, who actually used to play for the Steelers, fitting, tight to the wall. And then Crosby redirects, by the way, after the pinch. That's one thing about him, is that he's got these instant reactions. Watch his left arm here going in this direction. Again, imagine that the run play is to the side. Well, he's going to keep up. He's going to keep going on those tracks. Well, it's not. The running back reverses flow, and watch him rip underneath with the left arm right here to try to reorient back to the football. And in fact, he does. It's him and Landon Roberts and a third teammate who actually get involved with the play. Let me go to the all-22 angle so you guys can see what I'm talking about as far as his communication. I believe that he's a super aware guy. Don't see this as much with other defensive linemen across the NFL. I mean, granted, I am watching Maxx Crosby intently in the last, 6 or 8 hours trying to get this thing ready for you guys. And so I'm going to see it and be able to point it out to you. I just don't notice it as much in regular NFL games, and I don't notice it as much, watching the Ravens from the last 2 years specifically. Same play where he's stunting to the inside linebacker, is gap exchanging over the top. Crosby's in here. We'll slow motion it here for a couple of reasons, but you can see he ends up ripping up with the inside arm, the left arm. I guess technically it would be the outside arm for the way that he lined up on the left side of the defense, and then reorienting back to the football where the running back is. This is a special football player, a lot of fun to watch. I'll give you one more play. It's from the same game, late in the game. It's an option keep, and the thing that I like about Crosby's style in general, but it's specifically against option stuff, is he's going to make things happen fast. And then he's going to show up and be incredibly violent. The Commanders, Cliff Kingsbury obviously moved on at this point. They like to do this kind of cheap stuff with 2 halfbacks in the game, and NFL teams don't do a great job of really recognizing that and understanding the threat. There's no ISO threat. Everything's going to be generally horizontal. But this is the angle that Crosby plays at from the left-hand side of the defense, the right-hand side of our screen. Spectacularly quick, athletic, all of those things. Violence is what shows up on the film. And for him to play with this level of violence and be on the field 100% of the snaps, that's unique, if you ask me. If you show up on his tracks, you better be ready for collisions like this. It's a smaller running back. I love his play style. I didn't love it in week 2 of 2024. I mean, he just destroyed our offensive line. We were no match at all between the two guards that we had on the field, and then Makari being the right tackle. Now that he's on the Ravens team, I could watch film of the guy play football all day. I think it's a spectacular acquisition. I understand that there's probably, different opinions out there because we gave up 2 first-round picks, and certainly there'll be talented guys at 14, and Eric DeCosta will get, second-guessed depending on how 14 works out, who the Raiders are able to take. I think it's a brilliant move both ways for the Raiders and the Ravens. We needed this. We needed pass rush talent. We needed high-level defensive line play. But what we really need was consistency of pressure. And if Maxx Crosby can continue to play 92% of snaps, 97 or even 100% of snaps, I think this is well worth it. If we continue to get the same availability and the same production from him, I think the Raiders could win here too. The Raiders are going to go Mendoza at 1, I'm sure, and then they could go anywhere at 14. Offensive line, they certainly have a number of issues there. Edge defender will probably be a good one. Pass rush opportunities at 14 for them. I feel like Malachi Lawrence is a guy who's moving up boards. Keldrick Falk as well. Not the production. It doesn't have the production of a Lawrence or a Cassius Howe, who would certainly be there at 14. I think this could be a win for the Raiders, and that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a win for the Ravens as well, or conversely, or the other side of that coin. Maxx Crosby could go 18 sacks in 2026. The Ravens could go 14-3 and win a Super Bowl. It could still be a win for the Raiders. I don't feel like we have to immediately judge a trade like this and say winners or losers. I think the Ravens could win in 2026, and then the Raiders could pick someone at 14 that allows them to have a supplementary or complementary strategy somewhere else, and they could win in 2027 and beyond. So I'm content with that as a Ravens fan and as a Ravens content creator. Maybe you are the type of person you want to hear whether you think it's a win for the Ravens or a win for the Raiders. I think it's both. I do think that right now. I think we'll probably have the same opinion 11 months from now or 11 and a half months from now, whatever, when the Super Bowl's over after 2026, and we could have the same summary judgment 2 years from now. I will caution those who think this is a bad move for Baltimore. Some of you were the same people who said Derrick Henry was old and he wouldn't be able to have the same impact. And here we are 2 years later. I think 3,500, almost 3,600 rushing yards maybe, 33, 34 touchdowns on the ground, solidified his Hall of Fame candidacy. I mean, he could retire right now. He's a Hall of Fame player. I think Maxx Crosby is in the same boat. We could be 2-3 years down the road, and Maxx Crosby could have put up the same type of seasons or better that he did, becoming, I think, a 5-time or 4-time Pro Bowler for the Raiders. I love the deal. I'm glad to see Eric DeCosta step out of our comfort area as a Ravens organization. I guess that's one way that you can put it. The price tag was definitely steep, probably driven up by 2 or 3 other teams. I would think the Cowboys were one of them. Please let me know what you think of the trade. Were you surprised by it? I was. I was surprised when it happened. Were you surprised by it? Are you glad that the Ravens front office did it? There's nobody in this draft who has this impact. None. The price tag is different. I get it. If Ruben Bain dropped to 14, then you'd say, okay, well, we like that option from a cheap salary standpoint. Maybe that helps us keep Tyler Linderbaum. Hopefully a Lamar new contract comes up in the next 24 to 36 hours, and some of that question, Linderbaum and other offensive linemen in free agency, gets answered. I think it's an A-plus move. More than welcome to have a different opinion. Let me know in the comments section of all of those things as far as the Ravens go. But also give me some feedback on this video. Do you support the plays that I chose to use to illustrate what we're getting from Maxx Crosby? I use plays from 2025, so nobody can say it's from 2 or 3 years ago, like you do sometimes with other players who miss significant periods of time. Talk about a guy that plays every snap on the field, plays almost every week. I think he missed 2 games last year. Their season was already over. And from most reports, it sounds like he didn't necessarily really want to leave Las Vegas, but he recognized, that he had to. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments section, number 1. And then finally, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study look at Maxx Crosby with some of my commentary and thoughts, reaction at the end, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.